Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you for joining me today as we take a look at the very dynamic energies happening over the next week. From December 9th through December 16th, we have a big lineup of energies, and this is revealing to us more around our priorities, our growth, our next steps. Even if it feels big at times, there are messages here to keep us moving forward. Here's a quick rundown of what we have going on. So the Sun in Sagittarius is going to square Neptune in Pisces at 18 degrees December 9th. That is significant. Every time the Sun interacts with an outer planet, there is something that comes to light, that shifts, that opens up. The Sun is the biggest source of energy in our solar system, and as it interacts with outer planets, it receives and connects to higher levels of consciousness, new energies, and new awareness. The Sun squaring Neptune is often a time of confusion, feeling tired, uncertain about what to do next. There can be a lack of clarity. However, this is also a highly intuitive energy. As Sagittarius and Pisces are both about going higher, the higher realms, what we feel, what we sense, what we know, what we want to learn. So this is potentially an opening energy into higher perspectives around what's going on that maybe isn't quite clear at a micro level where the details are still foggy, but there's something you're feeling or sensing that can open you up and move you forward based on your intuitive senses. Also, over the next week, we have the very powerful Sagittarius new moon solar eclipse at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. A lot happening with this new moon eclipse. I am going to talk about that more in today's show. Then after the eclipse, we're going to see Venus enter Sagittarius on December 15th. Chiron stations direct on December 15th as well. That's at 4 degrees, 56 minutes of Aries, just about 5 degrees of Aries. And then Saturn enters Aquarius on December 16th. It could be the 17th, depending on your location. But remember that Saturn is actually re-entering Aquarius as it entered Aquarius back in March. So Saturn is revisiting territory that it opened up in March and is asking us to look at what has shifted now, what are the priorities now, and what are you taking forward with you. So a lot of shifts happening, we're ready for them, and it's time. It's definitely time for the new. Now, December has this overlay of energy that I've mentioned a few times already about completions, endings, and sensing new beginnings, wanting to move forward. But there are tasks we have to take care of. There are things in front of us where we must be diligent. We have to get the job done. There's a timing and a pacing involved. There's things that we have to tend to before that next chapter begins. So a lot of this month is looking at what you are wrapping up and completing, what you're moving through, what is really showing you a big area of growth. There can also be a sense of turning a corner where something that used to maybe hook you or grab you energetically doesn't have the same impact. You've grown through it. You've moved through it. Where once it was very big, it was something that was overwhelming, it was too much, it was emotional, it really weighed on your mind, it was just a heaviness. Well, we've been gifted with the opportunities to go into these places and to really look at what needs to be massaged, released, worked through. Where there was once a tightness, hopefully it feels looser and lighter because of the work you've done. So this would be a really good time to assess what you have been working on this year and if it still has any type of emotional hook in you, if it still is getting to you in some manner, and looking at what has shifted at a deeper energetic level. Because I feel this has been working with us in many layers of our being, at a cellular level, emotional level, physical level, intuitive level, psychological level. There's been all these layers that we've really had to feel, tap into, become aware of that have shifted. And of course, this depends on how open you've been to your own shadow, to your own patterns, to your own belief systems, or what is no longer true for you, what's no longer something that resonates with you. There's been these openings into new energies because of what we have moved through. And it's interesting because they're showing me 7 layers of skin. So I guess we have 7 layers of skin. And if we also have 7 chakras. And they're showing me how the exfoliation has been very deep, and it's been thorough, very thorough and intense. But that part of what we've been going into are these different layers of energies. And then they're showing me that for some people, different layers have been bigger. So for example, like that solar plexus chakra could have required a lot of energy and healing from you this year. Or it could have been your throat chakra. It could have been your crown chakra. They're showing me that some layers, and they're showing it as layers of skin, are thicker. They're thicker because they have more energy imprinted in them that has had to be exfoliated, to be released, cleansed, purified, a purging of energy. And that it's been working with us through many lifetimes of lessons, many lifetimes of healing and challenges and themes. And that's also why it can feel so intense when you go through a healing cycle. You're going into a lot of deeper energies that you didn't know were even there. And so this can bring up energies around a parental figure. And I'm saying parental figure because that is also the Capricorn energy. Capricorn is the authority figures in our world. And so that is a boss, a leader, a manager, but it's also a father figure or a mother figure or both. And so it can bring up relationship dynamics with those who are your first authority in life, so to speak. Your parents, the roles they played, what they provided you with, what they didn't provide you with, what there are unrealized patterns and unrealized energies around these relationships, and then how they have shown up at various times in your soul experience. So for example, I'm seeing the energy of a mother who was at one time a political rival in another lifetime. And in this lifetime, she's your mom. And then I'm seeing the energy of a father figure who was an army general in a previous lifetime and was the commander of the troops and who was always in charge, always in his mind, never in his heart. So obviously those are just 2 energies, and there's so many more. There's unlimited ways the archetypes show up. But that's why this energy has been so deep and so intense, is because it's asking us to reconstruct our energy systems after exfoliating, after healing, after realizing what is going on at deeper levels of our being, our own patterns, our own dynamics, how we have maybe interpreted certain things in our world that weren't the full picture. This is an energy of, it's been showing us a bigger story, a fuller story. And now it feels like there's been a shift in what we're meant to understand about how we can powerfully create what we want next. And that for many of us, this is the very first lifetime that we're able to have this type of big energetic turnover without dying, without leaving this body, without leaving this experience or this reality. It's like there's something now where the energy is turning over. And if that's what you want, if that's what you choose, you can step into new experiences that weren't available to you before and then open up to what that means. Because it takes time to get solid in new energy, to integrate it, to allow it to come in and to be a part of you. Similar to the way the skin cells take 7 years to turn over in the body. Or excuse me, all the body cells, it takes 7 years. But they're showing me this at a skin level. And so the skin is the container. It's the energy container that's growing, that's changing. And this can also feel destabilizing. This can feel like you're literally getting comfortable in new skin, and it takes time to do so. So that's part of what I'm feeling really strongly here as we move through this December energy. And we have this incoming eclipse that is very dynamic because it is very strong in Sagittarius energies. So it's the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury in Sagittarius, and they're all conjunct that south node of release, letting go, allowing something to be done in your life, in your experience. And in Sagittarius, this is about what we have believed. This is about where we have built our life on certain belief systems that we maybe weren't even aware of. We just didn't see it. And something maybe has come up to your awareness that has been an experience of contrast, meaning you maybe have seen something in yourself or in another person that had you look at the other side of the scale, so to speak, the other side of the mirror, the other side of the coin, and showing you that something is no longer true for you. It no longer feels right. It no longer resonates. And one of the best things that you can do right now, for whatever this might be for you, whatever awareness that's coming up, whatever you've understood about yourself, your life, where you're at now, one of the best things that you can say is thank you. To find gratitude for what you've moved through. To find a sense of understanding that this was necessary. This was necessary in order to learn, in order to experience it, in order to see something. And Sagittarius is about having experiences. The experiences that we have that form our perspectives on life, that form our understanding of ourselves, what we believe, what we want, what's important. All of this forms our opinions. It forms our sense of what's right, what's wrong. It all comes together and shows us how energies can coalesce, how energies can come together. And as we move through a very big eclipse, we are letting go. There's a disbursement here. This is a very interesting energy because a new moon solar eclipse is a new beginning point. But because it's conjunct the south node, it's like really letting go of something so that the new can come in. And it can happen quickly. There's also something here about allowing parts of our ego to be released. This is true for all the fire sign energies, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, is that the ego can come in and come through to maintain control, to say, I'm right, I know what to do, to really kind of hold the sense of self together to stay secure, to stay safe, to stay in charge. And so this is where the ego can be a false ego or an unhealthy ego, and it doesn't allow for growth. And when there is a lack of growth, what can happen is a part of our unconscious shadow side can then gather more energy, and it just becomes something that we're not seeing yet, or we're not ready to see yet. So the energy doesn't go away. It's interesting. It's sort of like it goes to another part of our energy field, and it prevents the new flows of energy to come through. I hope this makes sense. But essentially, the more that we can allow parts of our ego to deconstruct and to say, I don't know. This is very uncomfortable for Sagittarius energy, is to say, I don't know. But this is a deconstructing solar eclipse that's taking things apart. It's also showing up through the Neptune and Pisces squaring these planets and points in Sagittarius, where it diffuses the energy, it removes it. And so you have this letting go that can feel against your will, against what the ego wants. And it's essentially an opening, because now they're showing me a blooming, like a lotus blooming, because when it can go up higher, it opens up to new rays of sunlight. That's the visual I'm getting. So there's this turnover in our consciousness of, I've made it this far, I've learned a lot, this is what I've learned, and I'm grateful for what I've come to understand, even if it's been hard, challenging, even if it really hurt, even if it's been really emotional and intense and all these things that are uncomfortable. all these parts of our experiences that we really don't want to sign up for. They're all adding to your wisdom. They're all adding to what you can now understand about yourself and what you can change. Now, that's another strength of the strong Sagittarius energy, as well as the Neptune and Pisces. These are mutable signs. These are the energies of shifting and adapting, where you look at what works, what doesn't work. I want this, I don't want that. Change is happening. Change is supporting us as long as we can allow our egos and our minds to step aside and be okay with the unknown and to be open to what we don't know yet, such as, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I really trust that it's going to be amazing. Or I'm not sure about my next steps. I'm not solid on these details. I have a lot of uncertainty about how this could happen, but I also know that I'm deserving and open to the best and highest possible developments. That there are going to be wonderful things that show up that delight me, that surprise me, that support me. I am ready for this next step, and I know that I don't have to know, that I'm safe not knowing. This is an important message. You are safe not knowing. You are safe in your journey, even when you don't have the answers, you don't have clarity, even if it feels like you're walking across a bridge that has no sure footing and you're taking it one step at a time. This is where you practice understanding that you're safe, you're protected, you're guided, you're supported. And these are the message we can give ourselves, because when you give those messages to yourself at a cellular level, the energy is going to settle in. Meaning, when you tell yourself you're protected, you're guided, you're safe, your body hears that. Your cells hear that. Every ounce of your energy hears that, and it will feel that energy of safety and being protected and understanding that this is just part of the journey. You've done this before. There's been times in your life when you didn't know what would happen or you didn't know how something would play out, and that's just part of our human experience. And right now, as we're bringing together some potentials and possibilities, the most important thing could be to calm the mind, not let the mind create a huge, giant narrative. This is the Mercury in Sagittarius, conjunct the South Node, that is creating stories based on past experiences. Where, okay, last time I did this happened and it really hurt. Or last time I went through this job process or I did a change in my career, this happened. And it brings up some of these fears or worries that we don't want to repeat. And that's also where the ego will step in and be like, I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to be in control of this. But then it can shut down the higher guidance of spirit and of possibilities, and even the higher guidance of yourself. Because there's something about this energy that's still, the new energies coming in are very fresh, and we don't know how the story is going to play out. So we try to fill in the storytelling by drawing from the past or drawing from previous experiences. So you have some choices here around how to stay open to not knowing and seeing that this is a grand adventure. Sagittarius is all about adventure and doing something new and exploring and just being in that mindset of this is where maybe some of the best things in life are, where you don't know, you can't plan. How can you stay open, stay centered, stay inspired, and be okay not knowing? And honestly, this can be very hard. It's one way we have to manage our own energy. We have to manage our minds, manage our expectations, manage our assumptions, manage what we think will happen, because we don't want to shut down something else that could come through. So this is why the energy of this eclipse is very dynamic. It comes in, it's at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. It's opening up something in you around your own consciousness, around your own ability to stay open to the adventure of life, while also sweeping out and removing what is gone. And so just like when you create a void, you have to be intentional around what comes in to fill that space next. And I do have a video for you on YouTube going through the chart specifics of this Sagittarius new moon solar eclipse. So you can check that out where I go through the whole chart and talk more about that. But just know that 23 degrees of Sagittarius in your chart is receiving a huge download, and it typically lasts about 6 months. Every eclipse cycle is a little bit different depending on the energy it brings in. But then in the more immediate sense, because it's a new moon, it's the strongest for the next 30 days until the Capricorn new moon. And so it brings in energies that we're going to really feel, and it's going to be perhaps even this really quick switch in your consciousness around what is correct for you next. Almost like there could be a path that ends. It just abruptly ends. It's over. It's done. And you could feel it. You could know that it's coming, and it could even be surprising or shocking. But there's something about the ending that it's literally like, okay, I'm at the end of the road with this. This is done and it's over. And then I feel like there can be this next opening that happens after you've energetically said thank you to the path you were on. So it's part of the turnover energies, okay? Where again, there's the completions, there's the things that are done, they don't have energy, you've learned from them, you've understood them, and ready or not, the universe says, now we need you over here. We need you to move this way, and you'll feel it. There will just be that energetic push or that energetic pull that there's something else you're meant to focus on and that you're meant to go for. Now, do keep in mind that Mars in Aries is strong in this eclipse as well, as it trines all of these points in Sagittarius, bringing in the energy to move ahead. It's very strong. It has this very dynamic, it's almost like this laser focus purpose of what you want. So we have Mars in Aries, Mercury in Sag, and then Venus enters Sagittarius on December 15th. Now, right before she enters Sagittarius, Venus in Scorpio sextiles Saturn in Capricorn at 29 degrees, and this is a completion energy. Both are at 29 degrees. That is a critical degree of endings, but there's a sextile here around what you have learned. And with Venus involved, it is always about our value systems, what we love, what we need, how we feel confident, how we feel good. And it's also related to feminine energies, whether that is actual women or those who embody feminine energy, but it's also how we feel in our feminine energies. And as Venus in Scorpio makes a sextile to Saturn in Capricorn, there is something you've learned about relationships, money, women, receiving, your relationships to other people, and that if you have given your power away, or if there has been something that you've been learning, this Saturn in Capricorn is asking you to take control of what is essential, what has required healing, and to be aware that change is now possible. What's interesting about this dynamic between Venus and Saturn is that they're both transitioning within 2 days of each other. So Venus enters Sag December 15th, Saturn enters Aquarius December 16th. They're still in a conversation, but now they have more energy because they're in the masculine signs instead of the feminine signs. There's new momentum to take forward. There is something happening in this deeper reprogramming, and it just feels like it's deeper at a relationship level. There's something really significant. And then it also relates to this Chiron stationing direct at nearly 5 degrees of Aries and what you've been healing. It just has this really interesting energetic connection to trust what you know you need in relationships. And there's something that we've been, let's say, developing internally, like growing confidence around saying what we need in relationships, saying what is in our heart, which can feel very vulnerable. It can feel uncomfortable. There's something happening here, December 15th and 16th, that's pivotal in relationship changes, relationship dynamics. But I'm feeling this at an individual level, meaning within you, there's something that we've been gaining clarity on this year. That's perhaps a better way to look at it. What have you come to understand around relationships in your life, around what works, what's healthy, what feels good, people who see you, people who understand, people who can even be in healthy relationships. Not everyone can even be in a healthy relationship for any number of reasons. And so this energy here is really something is clear that's meant to be solidified around these relationship themes. Because what I'm feeling is that it does relate as well to the Venus retrograde in Gemini that we had earlier this year, when Venus was in Gemini from April until July. There is turning points here, like new connections, new friendships, new people that you're ready to meet, that you want to meet. This is also part of the Aquarius energies, where we open up to the bigger world, the wider network of people who we have something in common with, and that we get to choose. And by choose, I mean intentionally choose. Like you already know you have something in common with them. You already know what to talk about, or that it just has an ease to it, has a flow. It has something about it where it feels good. It has this synergy, and it's helping you remember that even if there have been people you've had to let go of, or people who have fallen away, or relationships that ended, or family dynamics that have changed permanently, that can be really hard stuff. It can bring up a lot of our fears. It can bring up a lot of things in our emotional underworld that isn't comfortable. The abandonment, rejection, betrayal, feeling powerless, any number of things can come up when there are intense relationship realizations and changes. And what's coming in is there will be new connections with people of like mind, like vibration, like soul. It has like something of ease in it, something where it doesn't require a lot of work. It just flows. And I feel like this really gains traction as we move into 2021. But there is something here around the middle of this month, certainly connected with the eclipse energy, that it's really taking stock of what hasn't worked for you, but how you've grown from it, how you've learned, how you've changed, how you've healed, and then understanding that there are more people in the world to meet and connect with based on what is true for you now. Saturn re-entering Aquarius on December 16th is obviously a big deal in the astrological world, and you will find on my YouTube channel part 1 and part 2 of these energies, of what Saturn in Aquarius is about. That will be under a playlist called 2021 Astrology, and you can listen to both of those episodes. They were originally recorded in March 2020 because that's when Saturn first went into Aquarius. Saturn then re-entered Capricorn in July of 2020. So we had about a 4-month preview of these energies. So take a listen to those 2 podcast episodes, part 1 and part 2, and those will give you more insights into what we're moving into as we enter 2021 and as Saturn transits Aquarius for the next 2.5 years. Now, the other big energy that's coming up over this next week is that the Sun in Sagittarius is going to be conjunct the Galactic Center. The Galactic Center is currently at 27 degrees and 8 minutes of Sagittarius. This is actually exactly conjunct my ascendant at 27 degrees and 7 minutes of Sag. And I know many of you also have some planets or points around this 27 degree mark of Sagittarius. And the Galactic Center, it does move. So at some points it was at around 25 degrees of Sag, and now it's currently at 27 degrees of Sag. So we include this range, about a 2-degree orbit. And as the sun approaches this point, it brings in fresh light energy and warmth to the galactic energies coming in and coming through, raising awareness, expanding our consciousness, reminding us to stay open, to stay aware. So this eclipse, the solar eclipse at 23 degrees of Sag, is conjunct the Galactic Center by a 4-degree orb and is amplifying these energies coming in of new discoveries, new understandings, higher perspectives, opening up our ideologies, opening up our philosophies, asking us to stay aware of what there is to understand, to keep expanding and to keep growing. So wherever this degree point is in your chart, 27 degrees of Sagittarius, this is where you are receiving these downloads of energies that are coming through to help you expand and also to stay open and optimistic. This does pertain to the overall energy of Sagittarius, which reminds us to keep going, to keep growing. And there can be new opportunities that awaken within us, that remind us of more of our soul's story, our soul's evolution, what your soul has learned along the way. The Galactic Center connects us to more energies in the galaxy, in the Milky Way and beyond. And it also allows us to receive more messages. This can be intuitive messages, energy messages, different frequencies, new light codes. There's just more that can be communicated, and there's more that opens up when the sun is conjunct the Galactic Center. So this will start at the Sagittarius Solar Eclipse and continue on for about 5 days after the eclipse. In fact, we could just say the last week of Sagittarius season is going to really amplify what we're ready to understand next, how we're ready to grow. And you could feel out of body. You could feel an opening or an expansion in your aura, in your energy field. And I'm also seeing it in the chakras, where the chakras can receive this new energy that's coming in and the chakras expand or grow. If that's your intention, if that's something that you want in terms of how you want to work with your own energy body. Also important to note that Mercury will be right behind the sun and will be also making a conjunction to the Galactic Center on December 19th. But Mercury will be moving behind the sun, and it's going to bring up more messages, communications, announcements. It's going to bring forth more ideas, more areas of understanding, more ways to work with energies. This can be that you have a sudden download, a sudden understanding. Something comes through that supports what you need, and it happens quickly. And that's because higher vibrating energy works fast. It's very direct. It doesn't stop and hang out and pause. The higher the frequency, the more direct the information is, the more intense it can feel as well. So there's something very expansive about December 14th through the 19th. There's going to be bigger energies coming in, coming through, and this is where we can stay open to what we don't know, to what we're learning, to what we want to learn next, and also the higher perspectives of the soul's journey. Overall, this feels very encouraging. And the other element at play here is that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And during this same time, we see Jupiter moving into Aquarius. That happens on December 19th as well. So, December 19th, the Sun and Mercury conjunct the Galactic Center as the ruler of Sagittarius moves into Aquarius. Very expansive, very interesting. This is time travel. This is shifting timelines. And that's also what's possible here. This is when you could be so clear around what is true for you now, what is energetically correct, that there is a timeline shift where what you've let go of, what you're complete with, falls away, it's over, you're energetically done with it, and then there's this new timeline that opens, which is essentially a new pathway filled with new energies, and you step forward into this next playground of energies that are a higher frequency. So this is significant. That's something about, again, this eclipse that's moving us forward as we've released and let go of a lot of deeper energies. And there is the potential for a timeline shift, a change in trajectory that basically can catapult you into the next chapter or phase of your life. And again, it's very fast moving energy because now we're going to have, or we've had, a number of planets in fire signs, and then we have Jupiter and Saturn now in Aquarius. This is dynamic energy. It's inspired. It's ready to go. It's motivated. And there could be something that is fresh and new to you that is beginning here in December, and then again it picks up and grows January, February, and beyond. So keep in mind that it's a pivotal time during this solar eclipse to set your intentions, to be clear about your energy, to be clear about what you need and what you want, and to not think that you have to figure it all out right now. You don't have to know every detail or every step. In fact, you probably won't. But if you're clear in the energy of where you're going, what your intention is, what you want to manifest, that is going to be the best beacon to follow. Big energies, a lot of changes that are coming through. Again, release points, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's too much to do or that there's a lot in front of you could also be a part of this energy. But as you move through it and work with it, it's going to help you get into this next chapter, because the other part of the Aquarius energy is that we can be moved into something else because it's needed for the good of all. There's a bigger intention, a bigger cause, if you will, where you're meant to move into a new position at work because then you free up your old position that someone else can move into, and then it allows other people to step into their next best position. So it's sort of like understanding that it's not just you that maybe is needing to make a change or move forward. It can be for the good of all. It can be for the benefit of all. And that is one of the higher vibrating intentions of this Aquarius energy too. So I'll keep talking about these themes next week, and we will, of course, carry on with this discussion. And I did want to give you a heads up that I'll be doing a special podcast on Friday because I have been guided to share with you 3 different client stories from years ago that I think are meant to help people understand some things and to heal. And these stories could be universal. They could be very prominent themes. So one story I'm going to share is of a woman whose energy was so big and her spiritual gifts were so big, but she didn't know what to do with them, and she was very out of body. So I'm going to share with you more about what came through to help her. Secondly, I'm going to share a story about a man. He was an engineer at Apple, and he didn't want to talk to me. First of all, he was not interested in talking to an astrologer, but it turned into this really powerful conversation around his dad abandoning him and how that affected him as a man. And so we're going to talk about what it means to be missing a father figure or missing a parental figure as you grow up, because there was some really fascinating information that came through around his story that I think could benefit many people. And then the third story I'm going to talk about is a client who had a very controlling mother. Her mother was so controlling, and of course this was a very deep soul contract, that it was really hard for her throughout her whole life to work with this relationship. So I'm going to share more about what came through in that session. And again, I hope that it helps other people, or at least helps you understand some of these dynamics that show up with someone who perhaps is very controlling or their energy is very intense. So that will be an episode coming out on Friday, talking about these 3 different client sessions. I did get permission from each of them to share their story, although I will use different names, not their real names. But this is important because we're wrapping up things at a very deep level. And I feel like some of these energy themes could really be pivotal in giving your mind a break or letting a part of the energy like calm down around some bigger life themes. So I will be releasing that episode on Friday, December 11th. In the meantime, you can check out more of these various podcast episodes on my YouTube channel, different playlists for you with different themes, including a look at that Sagittarius new moon solar eclipse coming up on Monday. And you can also still sign up for the 2021 Soul Growth Astrology program, which is the 6 webinars that cover all of the major astrology of 2021, including the 3 Saturn-Uranus squares that are the biggest energies that we'll be working with, collectively and individually. And so if you use coupon code 2021, you can get that whole program for only $21 until the end of December. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, energy, and presence. I really hope that you receive at least one valuable message that benefits you from this podcast episode. And I look forward to connecting with you soon in future episodes. You can find out more about me at mollymccord.online. And of course, I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much, and I'll see you back here soon.